Okay, students, we are going to work through lesson 2.1.4 together. You are going to want your resource page that was provided to you at school, a pair of scissors, something to write with, maybe some tape or glue, and a marker. So we are going to start by looking at the angles in a triangle, and we're going to discover the triangle angle sum theorem. We're going to do two different proofs, one of them very informal and hands-on, and one of them more formal. You are not going to be tested on proofs yet. Okay, that's something we're going to get to in the future. So proof number one says draw a triangle on the paper provided. Well, you're going to have to provide your own paper. You're going to want a separate sheet that you can cut out. So I have my separate sheet here. And this can be any old triangle. So honestly, I'm just going to chop off the corner of my paper. So now I have this triangle. And it says to color the vertices of the triangle, or each angle of the triangle. So I'm going to put a piece of scrap paper on top of the worksheet. Here's my triangle, and I am just going to color the angles or the vertices, however you want to think about that. Just those little corners we want colored. Okay. So I'm going to take away my scrap paper. Next, it says tear off each angle. I know this might make some of you sad. Make the pieces large enough to handle and glue. All right, in the space below, glue the angles next to each other so there's no space between. And then let's see what happens. If I fit this right in here, we make a straight line. And this is where you might want some tape or glue to keep that in place in your interactive notebook. All right, so the triangle angle sum theorem says the sum of the angles in a triangle is 180 degrees. And that is because when we tear them apart and put them together again, we can make a straight line out of it. Now, this type of proof is nice for discovery. It's nice for understanding a concept, but that is not the way we are going to prove things as we move through the course. So I'm going to give you a preview of things to come here with number 2. I'm going to go ahead and show you a 2-column proof, and that's going to have a statements column and a reasons column. Now, this is not anything that you are going to be expected to do on a test until semester 2, okay? When we start with a proof, we always start with the givens. So it says, given the lines below are parallel, and to make my life easier, I'm going to label these and call this line L and line M. And we use cursive lowercase letters for that. We're going to prove that these angle measures, A plus B plus C, the angles in our triangle, add to 180. So when we do a proof, we always start with the given information, given that the lines below are parallel. So my first statement is going to be L is parallel to M, and that is given. Okay, now we aren't allowed to use this in our proof because that's what we're trying to come up with here. So we're going to make some other observations. So I can observe that D, B, and E make a straight line and are supplementary. And this is very informal, okay? So this may not be as precise, but I'm just trying to introduce you to the format and get you an idea of how we handle a proof. So I'm going to say angle D plus angle B plus angle E equals 180 degrees. And the reason is they are supplementary or they form a straight angle. Okay, now we can kind of observe that this statement looks a lot like that statement. I need to get angle D and angle E out of there, and I need to get angle A and angle C in there. Okay, so I need to get rid of D and I need to get rid of E. So what are some observations that we can make about those two angles? All right, well, we've learned some stuff about parallel lines and transversals. So I'm going to cover up just part of my diagram here. If we look at angle D and angle A, those are alternate interior angles, and we know that those are going to be congruent. So for step 3, I can say angle D is congruent to angle A. And then if I look at what's going on the other part, over here, B and C are also alternate interior angles. So those are also going to be equal. And so the reason for that is alternate interior angles are congruent. All right, so we're almost there. We almost have our statement. We have something formatted like that. We've got A and C involved. So we have one more step to our proof. I'm going to replace D with A. B is okay. We want B in the proof. And then I'm going to replace E with C. And think about algebra 1. What do we call that when we replace something in our equation? We call that substitution. All right, so now we've got a few application problems. And you know, if you want to pause the video and try these on your own, you are welcome to do so. But we're going back to our algebra skills. We're writing and solving an equation. So I know the triangle angle sum theorem says all three angles in my triangle add to 180. So I'm going to write the equation x plus 40 plus 80 equals 180 degrees. These are all actually degrees. All right, I'm going to combine like terms. And then I need to get x by itself. So I'm going to subtract 120 from each side. And I get that x is equal to 60 degrees. All right, I'm going to check the directions to make sure I didn't have to do anything else. Write and solve an equation to determine the value of x. Okay, so when I go to solve for part B, I just have to find x and I'm done. I just wanted to check and make sure I wasn't asked to go back and find each angle measure, because then on part B, I'd have to substitute x in and actually compute those values. Okay, so I'm going to write my equation where I add all of my angles and set them equal to 180. And then I want to combine like terms. So I've got 3 x's. And then 96 plus 12 is going to be 108. Subtract your 108 to the other side. So that will leave me with 72 degrees. And then divide each side by 3. So let's see, 3 goes into 7 twice. I believe we're going to get 24 degrees. Okay, down at the bottom in 2-39, says find the measure of the missing angles in the triangle below, show your work or explain your reasoning. Okay, so let's see, on part A, what can we observe about our triangle? It has some markings here showing us all the sides are equal. So this is an equilateral triangle. That means that all of our angles are going to be equal as well. So I can just do 180 degrees divided by 3, and that gives me 60 degrees. All right, on part B, we have 2 of our sides that are marked as equal. That means we have an isosceles triangle. Isosceles triangle has congruent base angles, okay? Or you can think of it as the sides that are across from those, the angles that are across from those equal sides are congruent. So I could actually call that x and x. And there's going to be a lot of different ways to think through part B. I'm going to create an equation that says x plus this guy is 90 equals 180. Combine my like terms. So 2x plus 90 is equal to 180. Subtract 90 to the other side. So 180 minus 90 is 90. And then divide by 2. So I get x is 45 degrees. All right, part C is actually pretty similar to part B. So we have another isosceles triangle. And then our base angles are going to be equal there. So again, I'm just gonna, let's call it y and y. Will be a little different from the other problem. So I'm gonna add up all the angles inside my triangle. combine like terms. Subtract 34 to the other side. So that's going to give me 2y equals 146. And then divide by 2. So y is equal to 73 degrees. So make sure that you glue this into your interactive notebook and update your table of contents. I would also glue down or tape down this up here so you have a nice visual of the triangle angle sum theorem.